Hello everyone, Kier here, and welcome to the InfiNOT podcast. I'm focused on the casual nature of the game, and each week I discuss the new patch, the new card, and my feelings on the game. Let's hop into it. I mean, you know what I'm going to talk about, right? So, unless you've been living under a rock, Marvel Snap was banned, and you know this already. It was banned because of some dumb laws from the dumb president, and because of those dumb laws, Snap's developers, Second Dinner, were associated with ByteDance, who is associated with TikTok, who is the primary target of the ban, or rather was. The whole thing was a big stunt because, you know, they didn't actually have to ban themselves, and, you know, it's just a big, it's a whole thing, and if you haven't looked into it already, it's very complicated. What I will say is this: I'm glad that the game is back. They initially, right when the game was banned, the message that popped up for people in the US, including me, was, sorry, Marvel Snap isn't available right now. A law banning Marvel Snap has been enacted in the US. Unfortunately, that means you can't use Marvel Snap for now. Rest assured, we're working to restore our service in the US. Please stay tuned, and they did. From my understanding, Ben Brode, for the first time, posted in the Discord in a long time, to sort of answer questions, and he was on his social media during the time. You know, this whole situation happening when it did is really inconvenient, right? I mean, you know, a lot of people are having problems with the game right now. And so for some people, I'm going to guess that this was the last nail in the coffin, especially because as of right now, as I'm recording this, you still can't download it from the App Store, which is relevant to some people. My fiance very graciously gifted me a new phone, and it was very sweet. And the first thing that I wanted to do was test Marvel Snap, and I was like, oh wait, the ban. It's still, because of the publisher, they're not allowed to distribute it on the App Store. Or at least the Second Dinner team seems to want to change publishers, which, if you know anything about apps, means they have to go through a whole approval process and do a bunch of other stuff. All of this to say, if you were like me, sort of dreading the end of Marvel Snap, it's back. We're okay. And even better news, Second Dinner has offered a welcome back package for a lot of people as a sort of olive branch to the players who have been a little disgruntled about this whole thing. And, you know, this was also time lost for getting alliance missions done, for getting dailies done, for getting cards or bundles, or, I mean, just, you know, the whole thing, right? So they talk about, being grateful that players decided to stick around, and to make sure that this debacle doesn't happen again, they're working to bring more services in-house and partner with a new publisher. They say that this is the beginning of a new era in Marvel Snap. I'm optimistic, right? There's sort of this narrative that you could spin on how Newverse, the company that publishes Marvel Snap, have their strings in the monetization, and they're trying to, make the game more profit over fun. And, the Second Dinner team are the underdogs. I don't necessarily buy that story all the way, but I do think the fact that they're so rattled over this experience has maybe, changed the way that they think about the game and how they should be running it. So they also talk about how US players are obviously going to get more compensation, and this is going to be in effect for anybody who had an account before the day of the ban. So this includes, fresh new people to the game. They're going to get a little something too. I'm not going to read out every single piece of rewards here, but I am going to skim over them because it's a lot, guys. I mean, this is one of their most generous offerings ever. If this was offered in a bundle, the price would be astronomically high. So for people who are over collection level 500, you're getting Spotlight Keys, Season Pass XP, Gold Collector Tokens, credits, Conquest stuff, variants, a ton of variants, and some borders, boosters, all of that in one go. And apparently this is going to be delivered sometime next week. And for people who are under collection level 500, some Series 3 cards, Season Pass XP, credits, gold, variants, borders, and boosters. And guys, getting 6 cards for free is insane. That is insane. For people who are new to this game, that is just incredibly generous. And for the non-US players, they're still getting stuff because, you know, if you're a part of an alliance, then you're missing out on those rewards. Your matchmaking might have been affected by the lack of US players. And in this case, you're still getting a crap ton of stuff. You're still getting Spotlight Keys. You're still getting Collector's Tokens. You're still getting credits. And you get some boosters and variants and stuff. And for people who are under collection level 500, yeah, you're still getting 6 Series 3 cards, which is just beyond bonkers, along with all of the cosmetics and credits and such. So all of that being offered to the players, them talking about this being a new era of Snap where they're going to do things in-house, I don't know, man. It's getting me pretty hopeful. I haven't been this hopeful about the game in a long time. I've already spoken about how excited I am about the character mastery patch and how I think that's also going to help the game out. This is big. I would hope that this isn't going to be something that never happens again. And I should clarify, I'm not hoping that something terrible happens in the compensatus. I just mean, like, being more generous. I hope that this is not the only time this ever happens. I hope that they look into helping, speed up the progression of the game, because that's what we're all here for. We're here to play the new cards and do the cool things, and for a lot of people, that's really difficult with their budget. Okay, so a couple of extenuating circumstances. If you used a VPN, you're totally chill. For people who try to get into the US servers with a VPN, you won't be getting the US rewards. And it should be noted that the specification is that players who has had any activity in the United States in the last 30 days prior to outage will be receiving these rewards. Like, if you haven't been active in the last 30 days, if you haven't opened the app, then you're not going to get these rewards because it's not really affecting you, I think is their point. But for anybody who is within the last 30 days in the United States, you will be getting these rewards, which is super cool. This is all exciting, guys. I mean, what can you say? I like free stuff, and this is a lot of free stuff. I'm just looking at, like, the fact that we're getting so many variants, so many Spotlight Keys, a bunch of stuff that's going to make me feel more secure. I mean, it's insane. Just absolutely insane. This is especially crazy for somebody who's in Series 3, for both types of players, for people in the US and not. I mean, your progression's going to be boosted. It's insane. So props to Second Dinner. It's not often that Second Dinner gets a huge W like this, but this is just super generous. It makes sense given the state of the game and the state of this ban, and I think they're trying to earn some goodwill back, and for me, it's working. This is nice. Now, in terms of stuff that happened normally this week, not including this very generous compensation package, we did receive a new card, and I do want to talk about him. So let's talk about him. He is a 3/3. His name is Bullseye, and Bullseye says activate. Discard all cards that cost 1 or less from your hand. Afflict that many different enemy cards with -2 power. I'll be honest. I think in my rank, I typically float around Omega and Galactic. So, 80 to 90. So this just might be my pocket meta, but I was seeing Bullseye all over the place. Discard is on a tear right now. And it's probably also due to the weekend missions, but I'll admit, I'm not interested in this card personally, but it seems to be pretty good. It fits in a niche that this game hasn't carved out yet, where you're afflicting the entire enemy board, but the requirement for it is for you to build your deck in a very specific way. It's not just like a hazmat that you throw out. And I think it's a support piece that really enables some other cards, like Dokken and Swarm, to name a few. Although Swarm has to be discarded first, but you get the idea, right? You're probably not playing your typical APOC Dracula sort of discard when you're using Bullseye, but it's still very, very effective. The card seems strong to me, although I'm seeing wavering opinions on the card's viability. For me, I skipped it just because it's not the kind of archetype that I find myself wanting to play. But for discard enjoyers, there might be something here for you. I mean, if you do the math, he's subtracting 2 per card, and that's another thing to keep in mind, right? It's not that he's triggering however many times he can discard something. It's he only can discard and afflict as many cards as there are on the enemy side of the board. So what that means is you're basically capped to -8 per lane if that lane is completely full. If the lane only has 2 cards, then those 2 cards will be hit and nothing more. So this card has a pretty high ceiling, but it's not like insanely high. Again, Hazmat is the easiest comparison, right? With Hazmat, you can Wong, Mystique, Odin, and it's just insane, the amount of debuffing that happens on the board, but this isn't quite the same. Honestly, I feel like this card is really, really good as sort of an underdog to the meta. Because when I was playing my good cards list, as I do, what I often found is like these decks contain cards like Morbius and Gambit, which can just swing a lane without even trying. Like, they're just so absurdly strong. And, it is random on Gambit's part. Don't get me wrong, and, Morbius is susceptible to disruption, but my deck is more built around, like, simple, easy power, some micro plays and stuff like that. So it's not really equipped to handle something like this. Especially, when I have cards like Scarlet Spider, which really, really matter when they get afflicted. So, for the time being, I've been playing a Silver Surfer list that has Rogue, Red Guardian, and Killmonger, and I'm having a pretty successful run with that, and it's just because the deck can get to similar numbers as the discard deck, and there's some disruption in there. Oh, I also have Spider-Ham in that deck too, so it's really effective at like shutting down this whole discard shenanigans. And I'm not trying to necessarily ruin everybody's fun, it's just I'm not having fun when my good cards list is just not enough to stack up. When Morbius can get to 12 power with, sneezing, throwing down a 6/12 Magneto does not feel as impactful. So yeah, I'm gonna have to hold out to play my list again, but I'm having pretty fun with the Surfer list. All this to say, I think Bullseye is a pretty good release, right? It's not so broken that you're seeing it in the top of the top meta lists, but it's also still fairly strong in the decks that it's played in. So I'd say it's a pretty good release. It's a 3 out of 5 for me. And as of right now, that's all I have to talk about for this episode. As a reminder, you can find me posting on Blue Sky, and you can also find me posting on YouTube. So check me out there. And if you haven't already, rate this podcast. I'm telling you, it's a good idea. It's awesome and helps me. So I'd appreciate it if you did. If there's one thing that you can remember, it's that I'm InfiNOT. Thanks for listening.